continue the rest of the statements. So that I have used break command, it will come out from the switch block. So wherever you can use break statement, the purpose is same. So to immediately exit from the loops, you can go for break command, and to skip the specific values, then we can go for continue command. So these two are called as a jumping statements. Okay, so these are all called as a jumping statements. So we have seen while loop, we have seen conditional statements or selection statements, iterative statement, while, do while, and for loop, and then jumping statement, break and continue statement. So these are all called looping statements, selection statements, or jumping statement. Comes under control statements because we can control the code as per your expectation. We can just control the code. Okay, so this is all about today's session. I'll just stop it here, and we'll continue the rest of the things tomorrow. So today's session, we are going to learn about one more important topic from Java, which is arrays. Okay, so arrays is one more important topic we have. So let us discuss today arrays concept. So basically, what is an array? So that we need to understand. So normally, when I want to store some values into variable, we will specify the data type first, right? So for example, when I say integer a, right? So in this variable, I can store only a single value at a time. I can assign a single value at a time into this particular variable. And after that, if I assign the new value, so now the current value of a becomes 20. So the old value is gone. And similarly, if I assign another new value, so 20 is gone. So the latest value of a is 30. So that means whenever you create a variable, we can store just a single value at a time. It can be any data type, integer or float or double string, whatever. When I create a variable, I can store only single value at a time in that particular variable. Okay. So suppose I want to store multiple values into a single variable. I want to store multiple values into single variable. How it is possible? So this is possible using arrays concept in Java. So using arrays concept, we can store multiple values into a single variable. But if you store multiple values into single variable, how we can point those variables? How we can point those values? How we can extract those values? How we can store that values? So these are all different operations we can perform on the arrays. Okay. So let us discuss this concept today. So array is a collection of elements of same data type. Collection of elements of same data type. So that's the definition of arrays. Array is a collection of elements of same data type. So if I create an integer array, we can store only integer values. And if I create a string type of an array, we can store only string values, right? So that's the reason we say array is a collection of elements. Any number of elements we can store, but elements in the sense of values of same data type. So this is an important point. In array, supports only same data type of values. Now, in Java, we have two types of arrays. In Java, we have two types of arrays. One is single dimensional array. And the second one is two-dimensional array, or also called as a double dimensional array or multi-dimensional array. So there are multiple names we have. So one is single dimensional array. The second one is two-dimensional array, or double dimensional array, or multi-dimensional array. So these are the two kinds of arrays we have in Java. Now, so let us see what are all operations we can perform on this Java. So first we'll start discussing this one, like a single dimensional array, and then we'll go for two-dimensional array. Okay. So single dimensional array. So let's start with the single dimensional array. So in single dimensional array, we are going to learn few things. One is how to declare an array. That means how to declare a single dimensional array. How we can add values to the array. That means how to insert a values into array. And how to find size of an array. So that means I have a 10 values I have stored in this array. How we will know whether 10 elements are there or 15 or 20 elements are there. So I want to find out the size of an array. So this is very important operation to read the data from array. Okay. So then read the values from array. So how we can extract that values from array. So array contains some values, but I want to read each and individual values and all the values. So these are the normal operations we perform on arrays. So let us see one by one practically and programmatically. First one is declare an array. So how to declare an array? So to declare an array, so we have to create like this. If it is a normal variable, we'll say data type, the variable name, and then assign some value, right? So this is a normal way of creating a single variable. If it is an array variable or single dimensional array variable, we have to create like this. First data type, variable name, and we have to give one square bracket. Okay, this is representing array equal to new int of again bracket. So this is a way of declaring an array. This is a way of declaring an array. So here we must specify some size. So data type array equal to new int of, again data type we have to specify here also, int of 5. So when I say 5, I can store 5 elements, or I can store 5 values into the same variable. Variable is same, but it contains a multiple values. So when I say 5 here, this is called as maximum index, or this we can say size. This is a size of an array. So when I say 5, how many values I can store is totally 5 values I can store. But how we can recognize those 5 values is every value is identified by an index number. Okay, every value is identified by index number. So when I create an array like this, internally in the memory, it will allocate 5 different locations to you. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations will be allocated. So this, all the locations will be represented by one variable called A. So now 5 locations we have. Each and every location we can store different values of same data type. Suppose I can store 10 here, 20 here, 30 here, 40 here, and 50 here. So array is a variable which contains a multiple values of same data type. But how we can representing these variables, or how we can representing these values? Suppose I want to extract a specific value from this array, or I want to store some value inside this array. So we need to address these values. So how we can address them? So every location will identify by using index. So index will start from 0. This is 1, this is 2, this is 3, this is 4. So this is called as an index or address of the element inside the array. So index number will start from 0. So if you want to extract this value, I must specify a of 0. So a of 0 means it is representing the first position or first location. Similarly, if I say a of 4, means it is representing the last position. Okay, so when I say size is 5, the starting index is 0, the ending index will be 4. That means if I say n is a size, the ending index will be n minus 1 always, because its index is starting from 0, the maximum index always will be n minus 1. So when I say size is n, the maximum index will be n minus 1. But still we can store 5 values. It is starting from 0, so it is ending with the 4. So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So totally we can store 5 elements. Okay, so this is how array internally works. Whenever you create an array like this, internally it will allocate the size based upon the number we have passed, and we can store those many number of elements. Okay, so let us try to do certain operations on this particular array. So on array, we can perform these kind of operations. So how we can declare an array, how to insert values into array, how we can find the size of an array, and then how to read values from array. And if you want to read a specific value, I can read it. Or if you want to read all the values, still we can read them. Okay. And there is one more for loop especially designed for data structures. That's called as an enhanced for loop. Enhanced for loop or for each loop. Yesterday we have discussed about 3 kinds of loops. One is while loop, do while loop, and for loop. Right. So these are all normal loops. But especially for the data structures like arrays, hash map, array list. Okay, for these kind of derived data types, we have a special for loop is designed. So that is called enhanced for loop or for each loop. So I'm going to discuss this kind of loop today. So whenever you're working with arrays or list or hash map or these kind of data structures, you have to use for each loop. Okay, this will be very, very simple. You can still use classic for loop, but it is little complex. And when you come to for each loop, it will be very simple. I'll show you both of them at the time of reading the arrays and storing the values. So I can just use these looping statements. Right, so now let us see an example to perform these operations. Let's go to Eclipse. Okay, so in the Eclipse, I'm just open our project, whichever I created last class. So here, today is day 4. I'm just creating a new package, day 4, then finish it. And now I'm just going to create a new class today under day 4. And I'm first discussing about single dimensional array demo. Take a main method, then finish it. All right, so now let us see how we can start doing all these operations on arrays. The first operation will be declaring array. Let me put all these points here. Okay. So first we need to declare an array. So how to declare a single dimensional array? So first we need to specify the data type and then array name equal to new, again data type and bracket, and here we need to specify the size. So let us say 5 is my size. So I can store 5 values into array. So this is called as a declaration. This is called as a declaration. So once you declare this, how we can insert the values into array? So if you want to insert values into array, we can refer the every location with the index number. So when I say 5, what is the starting index is 0, the ending index is 4. So if I want to store some values, let's say a of 0, I'll put some number called 100. So now the first position is occupied with 100. Similarly, I can say in the first position, second position is 200. And similarly, I'm filled with values, all the locations. So a of 2, I'll make it as 300. A of 3, I can say 400. A of 4, I can say 500. So if you observe here, I have just stored 5 different values into 5 different locations. So every location is identified by index number. So this is how we need to insert a values. Inserting values into array. So you cannot store more than 5 elements because this is called as a fixed array. Fixed array means here, based upon the size, you can store only those elements. But you can also store less number of elements. Suppose you define 5, but you don't have 5 elements. I have only 3 elements, so I can just store only 3 values. Later, you can add few more values. But this array is allowed to you store only 5 elements or only 5 values of same data type. Okay, so this is a way of declaring an array and inserting values into array. So in this particular approach, we cannot store dynamic values, like we cannot store values more than 5. So this is fixed array. This is your fixed array. But now, suppose if you don't know the size of an array, suppose this time, at the first time, I need only 5 elements, but later my values are increased. So in that case, my array should be able to handle a number of values, more number of values. But if I say size is fixed here, it cannot hold multiple more than 5 elements. But how we can handle this one? So there is another approach we have to declare and insert a values, and that is called as a dynamic array. So this is called as a static array. Static means size is fixed. Size is fixed and we can store only those many number of elements. We cannot store more than those elements. So the other approach is a dynamic array. Means we can store any number of elements. We don't need to specify any size. So if you know the size of an array, just go for this approach. Okay. If you don't know the size of an array, then go for this approach. This is another approach we have. So integer array name equal to, don't specify any new int or size, directly add one curly brace like this and put all the values whatever you want to store. Let's say 100, 200, 300, 400, 500. You can add any number of values like this. So based upon the number of values, internally the memory will be allocated. Okay, suppose here I have stored 5 values. Internally, A contains 5 locations. When I say 10 values here, internally it will allocate 10 locations. So this is again dynamic. Based upon your number of values, the memory will be allocated to this particular array. Okay, so this is called as dynamic array. So here declaration and also initialization, all the values were directly initialized with single statement. We have done this. Okay, so you can just go for the first approach or the second approach. If you know the size is, if you know the size of an array or it is fixed, then go for the first approach. If you don't know the size of an array, if it is a dynamic, then go for the second approach. Okay, so here we declared array without specifying size. So this is called as dynamic array. This is called as dynamic array. Okay, so this is how the first point. Declare an array, inserting values into array. So first 2 points we covered. So declaring array, we have two different ways. One is a fixed array and the other one is a dynamic array. Okay. Now the third point is how to find size of an array. So here I have stored few numbers, right? We have stored some values. How we will know how many values we have stored? So we have a small method is available called length. So for example, a is my array variable dot length, a dot length. So length is a static variable we have in Java. So this will give you exactly how many values we have stored inside this array. So this will return some value. So we have to print that value. So input that into system.out.println of a dot length. So this will give you a size of an array. Size of an array means how many elements we have stored inside the array. So this is called length function. So length. Let me execute this till here. Okay, so now it is saying 5. So totally 5 elements we can store because already 5 elements we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 elements we have. Suppose let me just remove the last 2. Okay, now it will give you 3. So this is how we need to find out size of an array. So this is very important to read the values from array. Suppose if you want to read all the values, first of all we need to know how many values have stored. Accordingly, we can write a simple for loop and then we read the data from the array one by one. Okay, so this is how we need to find the size of an array. So length is a keyword which is available to find length of an array. So the next one is how to read the values from array. Suppose I want to read a single value. I want to read a specific value from this array. Then we have to specify that we using index number. So let us say I want to retrieve 300. So what is an index of 300 is, this is 0, 1 and 2. So the index of 300 is 2. So I can just say a of 2. So this will give you the value is 200. So let's print this value. So I'll just printing system.out.println of a of 2. So if you want to extract a specific value, we can extract it by using index number. So this will give you the value which is present in second location. So now you can see in the second position we have a 300. Second position in the sense as per the index. Okay, so index is start from 0. So 0, 1 and 2. In the second index position we have a 300. So this is how we can extract a specific value from array. So this statement extracts a specific